Hi everyone, I'm going to continue with my rebuttal of GreatX's video. Oh, by the way, he's still expressing his malcontent with this +1 and -1 thing, but I would just simply direct him to my two In Defense of Antinatalism videos, as well as my two correspondence videos with Pyro, and also my two Starting versus Continuing Existence videos. And I think all of those videos are pertinent to that point, and I don't want to reiterate here what I've said on previous videos, because that's kind of overkill. I think I expressed my arguments quite well in those videos, so I won't do so here. So he said that I'm an nihilist, and he challenged me to refute that. And I'd argue that I'm not a nihilist, because I'm not advocating killing anyone here against their own will. I'm advocating here is antinatalism, the belief that it's unethical to breed, and the best thing that's possible is for people simply to stop reproducing and let the human race die out. If I would like to elaborate on what I said in my last video, whereby I outlined the process by which ideally antinatalism would work. Look at the population now. Shall we call it 6.8 billion people? Ideally, we could adopt a one child per couple sort of policy, as seen in China in recent years. And what would that do to the human population? Well, in one generation, the population would go down to 3.4 billion, and then 1.6 billion, 800 million, 400 million, 200 million, 100 million, 50 million, 25 million, 12.5 million people, which is the size of a very large city. So in 9 generations, you've gone down from the current population of 6.8 billion people to a mere 12.5 million, and that's a very graceful way to slowly reduce the human number. You're not imposing on anybody a policy whereby nobody can have a child. Everyone's entitled to one child, so there is an outlet there for their own paternal instincts. But you're significantly reducing the human population to the size of a city in a mere 9 generations. Where is the annihilism in that? Where is the destruction? Where is the murder there? Where is the genocide there? That's why I'm not a nihilist. Okay. You said that I have a hatred towards existence, and just like to flesh this out a little bit. It's not existence per se that I hate. I don't hate the existence of plants. Apart from those plants in the day of the Triffids. Inanimate objects don't have sentience, so therefore they can't feel any pain or suffering. Though I don't feel any hatred towards non-animate objects. I don't feel hatred towards the sun. At the end of the day, it's just an enormous ball of gas. I lament the fact that it facilitated the evolution of life, conscious life on this planet, but to hate an inanimate object is irrational, because an inanimate object doesn't have any capacity to think. The experience of pain and suffering, I I detest pain and suffering myself, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Almost everybody, with perhaps the exception of masochists. I see conscious life entwined and inextricably linked with suffering. So it's not a hatred of pain and suffering that informs my antinatalism. It's a compassionate motivation to just end pain and suffering when pleasure and happiness serve no useful function for non-existence. Okay, you said you said I was just dismissive of things. Humans, we just can't go out to space, so we don't need to worry about that. Well, of course, we've already been to the moon. We've sent space probes to Mars. It's true, Greatex. I mean, we haven't sent out any space probes to Uranus as yet. You know, resting as it does in the outer rims of our solar system. But I'm sure, you know, it's just a matter of time. Let's say we get to we get to Uranus, or even Pluto, but it's not technically a planet anymore, but it's a long way away. Or what are we going to do when we get there? Whoop-de-doo. I mean, I'm a bit Anunnaki in that way. I like learning about like alien worlds, and that is quite interesting in an Anunnaki kind of way. But what are you going to do? You're not going to encounter any life forms there. It's not in the Goldilocks zone of the universe, for one thing. And once you get to the outer rims of our solar system, then you've got an awful long way to get to the next set of stars. You know, I mean, Andromeda is our neighbour, but neighbour's a bit of a misleading term, really, because in Andromeda, in the Andromedan galaxy, there's a star called Alpha Centauri, which is 4 light years away, and of course, to get there, if you wanted to get there in 4 years, you would have to travel at the speed of light for 186,000 at approximately 186,000 miles per second, or 300,000 kilometers per second. And people object to flying from the UK to Australia, because it takes about 24 hours to say, it's too long to be stuck on a plane. Well, 4 years is an awful long time, you know, to travel through interstellar space. I mean, I suppose it's plausible you could put people in a suspended animation, but if you do that, why bother to reanimate them? I mean, if they're in suspended animation, then they're not conscious during that time. They're not experiencing any pain or suffering when they're in suspended animation, and they're not being deprived of anything. There's no reason to reanimate them. And then you said I was also dismissive of the idea of helping to reduce any pain and suffering experienced by any intelligent alien races out there. I mean, of course, it was a kind of offhand comment, but it wasn't the main thrust of my the purpose of making that video, and I'll elaborate a bit on what I would like to say on the subject now. If we encountered an intelligent alien civilization, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to be optimistic about that possibility. I mean, look at the history of mankind, and look what's happened in the past when two alien civilizations have encountered one another. I mean, look what the British did when we sent a convoy to Tasmania. we decimated the Tasmanian population. Shame we couldn't do it at cricket. So it's not a good prognosis. It's really not. And look how we treat our fellow sentient life forms on this planet. The way we treat animals is diabolical. We consider them as things that we can just use for our own gratification. And we factor in very little generally the harm and suffering that we cause them. Also, if human civilization and alien civilizations meet, then there's going to be a disparity in terms of the technological capabilities of those two races. So there's going to be an issue of power, and do you think when if mankind were to meet some alien race, that they would just send a convoy, unarmed? No, of course not. They'd want to take weapons. It'd be a very tense situation. Both intelligent races would be distrustful of one another. There would always be the risk of conflict between those two alien civilizations. It's just the way that things are. It's about survival and reproduction, and you're not going to survive and reproduce and thrive in the universe unless you're capable of warfare. So the idea, if the human race encounters alien civilizations, then I would argue yes, we're either going to try to exploit them, or they're going to try and exploit us. They might decapitate a woman's head and preserve it and mount it above their mantelpiece, the way that some people mount a lion's head above their mantelpiece. They might, for their own titillation, they might find it amusing to enter human beings against their will into a gladiatorial arena and watch us fight against each other to the death. The way some people on this planet like to watch cocks fight, cockfighting. So, if both civilizations have got a comparable level of technology, then there might be an easy truce, but with the constant and unremitting threat of imminent hostile acts between the two civilizations. So that's a nice point to end this video. Laters.